Most poker players lose so much money before they even realize what they're doing wrong. In my 7 years as a winning pro, I have seen it over and over again. So in this video, I'm going to show you these mistakes and the changes you need to make to start winning your poker games today. The first mistake is playing with money you can't afford to lose. You should never sit at the poker table and play with funds you need to use for other parts of your life. Poker is a game of money, but it should also be one you enjoy as well. Make sure to have money set aside from your normal bank account used for bills, rent, and any other obligations. Be sure to set limits for yourself as you are playing to prevent a high risk of ruin. An elite poker player once said, "They have never heard of a poker player going broke being too conservative, but the stories of people going broke being too aggressive are endless." Another mistake is not having a warm-up routine. When you play poker, you should not just go straight to the table. Drilling is one of the most powerful ways to improve your poker game. If you're trying to memorize charts, then you are going to be behind from many average players and the elites. Have you ever played sports in high school or college? If not, I am sure you at least went to some type of schooling and was a student of some sort. For schools, teachers give us examples or quizzes to study from before taking an exam. For sports, athletes do hours of drills before they compete against other teams. Shouldn't poker be treated the same way if you want to become better at it? The competition or exam is when we sit at the table. How can you perform well if you do not practice and create the muscle memory connection for the knowledge of ranges and other aspects of poker? If you do not have a routine, you can learn how to properly prepare for your poker games by scanning this QR code to join my free poker newsletter. You will also receive various tips and receive hand history breakdowns to improve your game. Also, you can click my pinned comment on this video to join. The next mistake is one of the most significant ones. You believe you're on a downswing. First, let's define what a downswing truly is. It is a long period of time where poker players are losing money. What most of them do not realize is you have to prove you can win before you can downswing. If you have not won at poker over a very large sample size, you can just be a losing player. Winning a couple of sessions in a row does not mean you are winning. It is better to understand this than to blindly blame luck or bad beats for your losses. This ties into the next mistake of believing when you lose, it's a bad beat. All hands are not truly bad beats. There has been many times students I have coached complain to me about them and I say, this was not a bad beat. They ask why and I let them know, well, you played the hand wrong. Poker players make the mistake of focusing on the money lost instead of reasons why they lost and how they can improve to prevent it from happening again. It can send you down a false path when you play a hand bad and win because sometimes you will not learn from your mistakes. This also leads into the mistake of being results oriented. As I always say, you can play a hand good and lose just as you can play a hand bad and win. Playing the hand bad and winning is often overlooked and ignored. Results mean nothing if you were not making the most profitable play based on your given situation. In the long run, the laws of math will always catch up to the people who make bad plays and find a couple of lucky wins. Think about how you played each hand and focus on progressing your game without reacting solely based on the result. The next mistake is a simple one, but people still do it even though they sometimes know better, which is limping. I have one comment to say about this. Just stop doing it. If you do play a lot of limps, then odds are you do not know your pre-flop ranges. A range refers to the set of all possible hands a player might have in a given situation. It is one of the most important building blocks of poker. If you cannot tell me your RFI ranges, aka raise first in ranges for all positions at the table, that is a problem. How can we know how to play post flop without having or knowing good strategies pre flop? We have to learn how to walk before we can run. You must also know what hands you will 3-bet squeeze, 4-bet, and even call against opponents' RFI and 3-betting ranges. For me, knowing ranges is just as easy as opening a water bottle. If ranges or poker feels tough, don't worry, because something that is easy is scanning this QR code to join my free poker newsletter. You will learn to win more money playing very easily. Also, you can click my pinned comment on this video to join. 99% of poker players make this next critical mistake. They do not know when to fold. 99% of players make extremely bad calls every day at the tables. Even professionals cannot find good folds at times, so do not believe this only happens with people who play for fun. It is an art that can take years and years to master. The best of the best know when to make good folds playing poker. Think about your opponent's range and what hints they are giving you about them having something. This can be based on their sizing and how the hand has played out. There are many questions to ask when deciding to make an important call, but one that I ask myself is, do I have better hands to call with? Try your best to not make snap calls and use that beautiful brain we all have to think before acting. Another mistake is bluffing the fish at the table. They are the worst type of player to bluff. Sometimes you have to know when to just relax at the poker table. This is when I like to take the Brandon Sligh approach, aka the be simple approach. You can just bet when you have it because they will happily put in the money bad for you. Please, oh please, do not pay the nits. A nit is a tight player who's terrified of losing chips. They fold everything but the nuts and play like they're trying to survive and not win at the game. You'll spot these players because they haven't 3-bet since I was a teenager. Speaking of 3-bets, cold calling them in big blind is never a good option. It is much better to play a 4-bet or fold strategy. In this spot, you will be out of position almost every time and be at a huge disadvantage to the rest of the table. Your hand is also played face up because there are not many hands people will call with here. Some of these hands include the famous pocket tens and jacks, so if you see a 10 or a jack on the flop as the 3-better, please be aware someone may already have a set. If there's a position you do not want to be in often at the table, it is definitely out of position. Did you know majority of your profit comes from playing hands in the cutoff and on the button? When we are in position, we are last to act on every street. We have the choice of checking back to realize equity if we have a good hold'em, and we can pot control. Also, we have the ability to apply massive pressure to opponents who play out of position too much and make them feel very uncomfortable. Playing too loose at the tables is another way to lose thousands of dollars for no reason. People tend to have a false belief if opponents are playing a lot of hands, we need to join the party with them. This is not necessary, and we can get away with playing tighter ranges. Your opponents will show up with a lot of weaker holdings and will be outkicked or outflushed very often. Everyone keeps saying ace king and ace queen are drawing hands, so what does this cause? It makes everyone play scared with these premium holdings. They are very powerful hands, and you can put maximum pressure on your opponents in certain situations. These are the hands you need to be aggressive with. Don't forget, if we have an ace or king in our hand, it is mathematically harder for other players to have aces and kings in their hands. If you struggle with aggression or need help with your game in general, make sure you check out my free weekly newsletter. You can receive free poker tips by scanning the QR code that is on your screen or by clicking the link in the pinned comment of this video. Overplaying top pair is a common theme for many poker players. One pair may be the best hand sometimes, but you do not always want to be putting all of your money in with it. It is extremely situational dependent based on ranges, positions, if it's a 3-bet or single raised pot. Next time, be a bit more careful with top pair. The next mistake I see at all levels of poker is not adjusting multi-way. If there are 4 or 5 players in the pot, you must tread very cautiously. If sometimes we have to be careful with top pair heads up, then it is even more vulnerable in a multi-way setting. A good rule to live by is the more people in the pot, the stronger your holding needs to be to call bets or raises. The less people that are in the pot will lower the threshold needed to defend properly. We aren't supposed to win every session we play, so please stop trying to get even every time you are losing. Let's face it, whether you are playing for fun or are a professional, I am sure you have had a poker session where things did not go right. You start thinking, I would be happy if I can just get even. It could have already been a long day, but you refuse to leave the game. This is a huge mistake, and we never need to chase losses. More importantly, you should ask yourself, are you playing your A game? Is the game you're currently playing in still good for you right now? Once you start playing hands to make up for other spots, you have already lost. Poker is not going anywhere, and there is always another day to play. This brings me to the next mistake, and that's believing one session defines you. One session is just one brick on a very big wall. Winning every time should not be your goal because losses are inevitable. Consistently playing to the best of your poker knowledge for the long run should be your main goal. This correlates with the mistake of letting emotions take over at the table. Poker is not a game of emotions. It is a game of math and calculated plays based on a massive amount of variables. Have you ever played a hand to get back at someone who just beat you for an entire stack? If you have, this is not the way to go about it. Never let your emotions get the best of you. It is completely fine to take a break from the table, grab some food, and maybe even take a walk to regroup. If the tilt is still there after that, it is best to call it a day. Trust me, it is upsetting when you have a good hand and do not win, but we cannot win every time with a better starting hand than our opponent. A strong mindset goes a very long way at the tables. When you have a strong hand such as aces or kings, please do not slow play. This also can be applied to when you have a strong made hand post flop. Slow playing does not make sense at majority of the tables you will play at. Stop trapping and start putting in more money to get paid. People call too wide, and with so many worse hands, we get paid very often. Also, if you do decide to trap aces or kings and get them cracked, just remember, you put yourself in a tough situation that could have easily been avoided. The best and most elite players never make this next mistake. It is not knowing how to hand read and range people. Honestly, it is one of the most underrated abilities in the game of poker. This is why it is so important to have a vast understanding of pre-flop ranges so we can have a better understanding post-flop. Not only do you need to worry about your own range, but your opponents as well. Ranges interact different with all of the different board textures the game has to offer. Keep in mind, everyone's range changes as we go from pre-flop to the flop, to the turn, and finally to the river. Player profiles, bet sizes, and actions on each street help poker players range everyone very accurately. One aspect of the game people cannot study for using charts is being able to make conversation at the tables. As I am sure you have seen on those high-stake live streams, they really enjoy having people who are good for the game. It doesn't hurt to be friendly with other players at the table. Live poker gets easy once you master this one move, so watch this next video to find out what it is and how to implement it in your game.